The sound of a spoon tapping on crystal cut through the low murmur of the Vanderbilt Museum gala. Scott Ellington, my boyfriend's father, stood on the small stage, smiling like a king addressing his subjects. "I want to thank all of you," his voice boomed, "for coming, and a special thank you to my son, Ilyas, for his hard work." His eyes scanned the room, and I felt them land on me. I was sitting at the main table, right next to Elias, and Scott chuckled, a sound like ice rattling in an empty glass. A reminder for all those trying to climb into a world they don't belong. Just remember, a borrowed dress is still just rented. The room didn't gasp. It just stopped. All air, all sound, sucked into a vacuum. He was talking about me. He wanted the room to think I was temporary, disposable. Have you ever felt invisible in your own relationship? Let me know your story down in the comments. This wasn't the first time I'd been the target of his quiet cruelty. It was just the first time he'd said it so publicly. For 2 years, I had tried to earn a place at that table. 2 years of Sunday dinners at the Ellington estate, sitting on stiff, antique furniture that felt like it was actively rejecting me. 2 years of Scott Ellington barely making eye contact, asking dismissive questions about my work, still playing with those. "Apps, are we?" he'd ask. His tone implying my venture capital fund, Apex Ventures, was just a hobby, a little game I played on my computer. I'd tried. God, I'd tried. I learned the names of his business partners. I read the boring financial news he found so important. I wore the conservative, old money clothes. I hated pearls, navy blue. Nothing that showed too much personality. I made myself smaller, quieter, more palatable. And Elias. My Elias. Just let it happen. He'd always grab my hand under the table. A silent, useless apology. Later, he'd say, "Rose, that's just how he is. He's old school." Or, "He doesn't mean it, baby. He's just stressed." But he did mean it. And Elias knew he meant it. His mother, Kimberly, was worse. She was never openly cruel. She was just absent, a ghost in her own home, draped in cashmere. She would smile politely, her eyes sliding right past me, never, ever intervening. She'd just refill her wine glass and ask Scott if he needed anything. I used to think they were just weak. I'd spent countless nights driving home from those dinners, frustrated, telling myself that Elias and his mother were just collateral damage, too cowed by Scott's personality to fight back. But that night, at that gala, I realized my analysis was wrong. It wasn't just weakness. It was a classic psychological pattern. It's called the bystander effect. But in a toxic family system, it's so much more. They weren't just bystanders. They were active enablers. When you have one dominant, narcissistic personality like Scott, the rest of the family learns that survival depends on silence. The psychological cost of confronting the king is just too high. It's easier to find a scapegoat. And I was the scapegoat. They weren't just failing to protect me. They were actively sacrificing me to maintain their own fragile peace. Every time Kimberly changed the subject, every time Elias told me I was being too sensitive, they were complicit. They were holding me down so Scott could take his shots. And in that moment, with his words echoing in the silent ballroom, I finally understood their silence wasn't a lack of strength. It was a choice. I looked back at Scott. He was still on stage, holding his glass, a self-satisfied smirk on his face. He thought he'd won. He'd put the gutter trash in her place. Then I felt a hand on my arm. It was Elias. His face was pale. "Ashen, Rose, please," he whispered, his eyes darting around the room. Just don't make a scene. Please." And just like that, the humiliation vanished. The sting, the heat, the shame, it all just evaporated. It was replaced by something cold, something sharp, a clarity so absolute it felt like I was seeing the world for the first time. It wasn't Scott's insult that broke me. It was Elias's plea. I looked at him, my boyfriend, the man I loved, and all I saw was a coward. A man so terrified of his father that he was begging me to swallow the humiliation, to make myself smaller so he wouldn't be uncomfortable. I turned my head. My eyes met Scott's. He was still watching. That arrogant smirk fixed in place, waiting for the tears, waiting for me to run out, sobbing. I glanced at Kimberly. She was studying her dessert fork. Just studying it. As if the entire room wasn't holding its breath. As if her son's girlfriend hadn't just been metaphorically spat on. She was a master of avoidance, a true professional. Finally, I looked back at Elias. "Don't make a scene," he'd said. I slowly, deliberately, picked up my heavy linen napkin. I folded it. Once, twice. I placed it gently on the table, next to my untouched plate. I didn't throw it down. I didn't slam my chair back. I simply stood up. The silence in the room was deafening. It was so quiet, I could hear the faint clink of my earring as I turned my head. I looked at Elias one last time. "It's okay," I said. My voice was perfectly steady. "I understand now." And I turned my back on him. I didn't run. I walked right out of that ballroom. I walked past the tables of investors and socialites who were now staring at their plates. Just like Kimberly. I walked past the $1 million paintings hanging in the hall. I walked through the massive marble foyer, my heels clicking a steady, even rhythm on the floor. Click, click, click. It was the only sound in the entire building. I didn't look back. I knew, with absolute certainty, that Elias was not following me. He was still sitting at that table, trapped by his own fear. I pushed open the heavy glass doors of the museum. The cool night air hit my face, and it felt like the first clean breath I'd taken in 2 years. I was free. I didn't stop until I reached the valet. My driver saw me and immediately pulled the Bentley around. It was my car. Not a rental, but I was too focused to even register the irony. I slid into the back seat, the door closing with a heavy, satisfying thud, sealing me off from the world. The calm I felt was terrifying. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was focus. I didn't call a friend. I didn't call my mom. I pulled out my phone and hit the first number on my speed dial. He picked up on the second ring. "Morgan." "Rose. It's 9:30. Are you okay, Morgan?" "My chief of staff. The sanest person I knew. I need you to do something," I said. My voice was low, flat. "What's going on? You sound strange." "Cancel the Ellington deal." Silence. Just dead air on the line. I could picture Morgan freezing in his home office, a glass of whiskey halfway to his mouth. "Rose," he finally said, speaking slowly. "This is not a great time for a joke. That's the $3 billion acquisition. We are set to sign the final papers on Monday morning. I'm not joking. Morgan, kill it. Tonight. Send the notice. What, Rose? The termination fee alone is $50 million. Our board will... I don't care about the board. And I really don't care about the $50 million. Send the termination notice to their legal team. Chite irreconcilable differences incorporate values. Irreconcilable differences. What the hell happened at that gala? Did Scott Ellington show up drunk? I leaned my head back against the cool leather. He called me rented. Another pause. Longer this time. When Morgan spoke again. His voice was different. The confusion was gone. It was cold, just like mine. That bastard. He did it on stage. Morgan, in front of a room full of our investors, he thought I was just some girl in a borrowed dress who didn't belong. I could hear the clicking of a keyboard, fast and aggressive. Okay, Morgan said. Notice is being drafted. Legal will have it sent within 10 minutes. Is that all? I watched the lights of the museum shrink in the rearview mirror. I'd spent the last year in due diligence, learning just how badly Ellington Heritage Goods was failing. Scott's heritage brand was a fossil, bleeding money, propped up only by the rumor that the mysterious, anonymous founder of Apex Ventures was interested in buying them. That was me. I was the anonymous founder. Scott Ellington hadn't just insulted his son's girlfriend. He'd insulted the one person on Earth who was holding the lifeline to his entire company. He just didn't know it. No, Morgan. I said, that's not all. The deal is dead, but I want the reason to be clear. What do you mean? Take our entire due diligence file, the real one. The one that shows their leverage to the breaking point. The one that shows Ellington Heritage Goods is functionally bankrupt. I want you to send it to our contact at Forbes. The full, anonymous package. Leaked documents. I want it on her desk by midnight. By morning, I want the world to know the real reason Apex Ventures pulled out. I could practically hear Morgan's shark-like grin through the phone. They'll think we're pulling out because they're a bad investment, not because he insulted you. Exactly. I said, he thought I was rented. He's about to find out his entire company is just broken. Let's see how his old money friends feel about him when that hits the news tomorrow. Consider it done. Rose. He'll be ruined by the opening bell. I hung up and finally, for the first time, I let out a breath. He thought I didn't belong in his world. He was right. I didn't. I was playing a different game entirely. And he had just lost. I didn't sleep. I just waited. At 5 a.m., my phone lit up with the Forbes alert. The headline was a masterpiece of quiet destruction. Ellington's empty heritage leaked files show legacy brand on brink of insolvency. It wasn't just an article. It was a financial obituary. Morgan hadn't just leaked the files. He'd provided a step-by-step guide to the rot. By 7 a.m., the pre-market trading was a bloodbath. Ellington Heritage stock was down 70%. It was in a free fall. And the opening bell hadn't even rung. They weren't just in trouble. They were gone. I was pouring my second cup of coffee when my personal phone, the one I kept for family, and him started to vibrate. Elias. I let it ring, watching the screen buzz on the marble countertop. One ring, two, on the third. I picked up. I wanted to hear this. Hello. Elias. Rose. Oh my God. Rose. What did you do? He wasn't just upset. He was sobbing. A high, thin, hysterical sound that grated on my nerves. I'm not sure I know what you mean, I said, taking a slow sip of my coffee. It was hot. Black. Perfect. The Forbes article, The Stock My Father, Rose. He's catatonic. The company is gone. It's gone. You're destroying us. You're destroying my family. Destroying the sheer, unadulterated entitlement of that word. As if his family's legacy was some protected natural resource. As if I owed them my silence. Oh, I said, my voice dangerously calm. So now you realize I have that kind of power. Last night, you just wanted me to sit quietly so you wouldn't be embarrassed. No, you don't understand, he yelled, his voice cracking. I was trying to. You have to stop this. Call them, tell them it's a mistake. Stop what? Elias, the truth, it's just business. No, he screamed. It's not Rose. I knew. Okay, I knew. My hand froze. The coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. The air in my penthouse suddenly felt thin. Pressurized. What? What did you just say? I knew, he sobbed. The words tumbling out. I've known for 6 months. Known what? Elias. That it was you. That you are Apex Ventures I. I saw an email on your laptop. Months ago. It was open. A draft to Morgan. I wasn't snooping. I swear. I saw the Apex letterhead. I saw it was you. The world tilted. My blood didn't run hot. It turned to ice. You knew. I whispered. It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. Yes, he cried. I knew, and I knew the company was in trouble. I knew my dad was an arrogant fool. I thought if the deal went through, it would all be okay. I thought you'd save us. And then he would finally respect you. And we'd be. He trailed off. Finally hearing the words he'd just said. He knew his father's company was a sinking ship. He knew I was the one holding the lifeline. He knew his father was trying to sell a failing, fraudulent company to me. He knew all of that. And he still sat there, at that gala, and watched his father humiliate me. He still grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't make a scene." He hadn't been protecting me. He hadn't even been protecting his father. He was just a coward. A parasite, trying to play both sides, hoping to secure his inheritance by leveraging my money, all while accepting his father's prejudice. This was the real betrayal. Scott Ellington was just an arrogant bigot. Kimberly was a ghost. But Elias was the viper. You knew, I said again, my voice flat, dead. You knew he was trying to defraud my company. And you knew he was humiliating me. And you just sat there, hoping to profit from it. Rose, please. I love you. I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just pressed the button. I blocked his number. I blocked his mother's number. I stood there, looking out over the city as the sun came up. And I finally understood. The real rot wasn't the old money arrogance. It was the new money cowardice I had been sleeping next to. The fight wasn't over. It had just been clarified. 2 days later, they were in my lobby. My chief of staff, Morgan, called. Amused. Scott and Elias Ellington are here. Making a scene. I smiled. Send them up to the glass conference room. And Morgan, make them wait 10 minutes. When I entered, they looked pathetic. Scott's perfectly tailored suit was rumpled. His face gray. Elias looked hollow-eyed and haunted. Rose. Scott started, the word costing him Thank you for seeing us. You have 2 minutes, I said, not moving from the door. He begged. It was a terrible misunderstanding. A joke. Please. We can renegotiate. Any price. You're destroying my family's legacy. I just shook my head. Your mistake. Mr. Ellington wasn't insulting me. It was thinking we were playing the same game. I walked to the window. You live in a world defined by old money. Your entire sense of self-worth is tied to a name you inherited. So when you looked at me, you just saw what I wasn't. You saw a girl in a rented dress trying to claw her way in. You never once stopped to consider, what if I owned the world you were just floating in? Elias whispered, Rose, please. I love you. You? I said, my voice like ice. Your silence at that gala cost you your voice. I turned back to Scott. Here's the $3 billion lesson. Your legacy is just a rusted anchor, pulling you straight to the bottom. I was your only lifeboat. I paused, looking him dead in the eyes. But me, I built my name from nothing. I am my own anchor, and I decide where I land. I opened the door. Morgan, this meeting is over. Please see them out. As security led them away, Elias looked back, his eyes pleading. I had already turned away, looking at my monitor. At the next deal, Ellington Heritage filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy 6 weeks later. Total, liquidation. Kimberly filed for divorce. And Elias? I truly don't know. And I don't care. He's a blank space. My life didn't pose. It just accelerated. Last week, I was on a flight to Zurich for a new acquisition. I looked out the window at the curve of the earth and smiled. I wasn't trying to get into his world. I was just busy building my own.